welcome to the Transfer Exchange Show. We are live, and this is a Super Six podcast. We've got a full squad tonight from Manchester, Manchester City, and Manchester United. We've got Arsenal represented, and we've got Liverpool back just in time because this lot have been hiding since Farrell's been since they lost.
Yeah.
We're not going to dwell on that because we move on because we're bigger than that. We're bigger and better than that.
No,
let's
dwell
and concentrate on something that's in the past. We've moved on since then. We've obviously got to talk about Liverpool and their cup final this weekend. Manchester United, after all the pressure on Ten Hag, have shown resilience and have come out the other side and are pushing for that top four. Manchester City hit a stumbling block this weekend against Chelsea after put a halt on their 11-win streak, which, someone needs to stop them. But it was only a draw. Not even a loss. And obviously, Steve's happy here because Arsenal are banging in goals at the moment. 5 this weekend, and it doesn't look like stopping. First and foremost, Steve, we're going to start with you because I've not seen you smile so much in a little while. I know you've been clambering to be on a show with Kevin and Farrell for a while as well. Arsenal, a very good win this weekend, showing their class and putting 5 goals away against a Burnley side away from home.
Yeah, I mean the saying it's good to be an Arsenal fan at the moment, mate. You know, I probably said that quite a few times over the last few weeks. They're. I don't think there's anybody going to disagree the fact that they're absolutely on fire at the moment, and at this stage they're looking unstoppable. Everybody they're coming up against, they're just, they look confident, in every area of the pitch, and yeah, I mean, we come up against Burnley. A lot of people were saying, it's going to be a tough game, Burnley. We hear it all the time. But I was the way we've been playing over the last 5-6 games. I knew we was going to beat them, and I'm one of these fans who's always a bit wary about wherever we're playing. I'm never too sure, but we went to Burnley, and they're second from bottom, but big sides have been there and found it hard recently. We just went there and just, we literally showed them, basically what they are, and that's a side second from bottom. And we was fantastic from goalkeeper to the forward line. There's not any negatives at all over the last 5 weeks. With David Ray has been questioned. Over the last 8 games, he's if you're looking at the stats, I'm not really one for stats, but he's, according to the stats, he's the best goalkeeper in the Premier League at the minute. The defence is the best defence in the Premier League. The midfield with Odegaard and Rice is just literally unstoppable right now. The money that people were saying was a waste of money for Cole Havertz looks like they're all gone quiet and disappearing slowly. And I said a few weeks ago, I said, beware if our forward players click. Beware if our forward players click, because everything else was in place. And by God, they've clicked, because they just look unbeatable. They look unstoppable. And we had this thing about Arsenal needs a striker, Arsenal needs to buy a striker, blah, blah, blah. But again, as I said a few weeks on the show, you've got to give, the weight. We finished only 6 goals behind Man City last year, and you've got to forgive Arteta for not thinking that he would have needed a striker. And
what do you think the difference has been in recent weeks then, since they've come back from Dubai?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what has happened in Dubai. They seem to have gone out there and go out to Dubai more often. I don't know. What they've come. We started out with a new system, and it's just taken its time. And I think the front players, Havertz was brought in, especially for that system, and we can see like what he's bringing now. I mean, his last 3 games he's been outstanding, and because of it. It's his way he can move around, the interchanging with Trossard and Odegaard now, who was like who because of the new system was having to drop deep. It was taking him time to get used to that. Now he's getting used to that, picking the ball up deep, and he's now he's playing some of the best football we've seen, at Arsenal. So I think it's a matter of that we've got used to the system, and the forward players are now used to it. They're getting used to. They know what Mikel Arteta wants from them, and from what you've seen over the last few weeks, I mean, a few people have said, "Oh, they've beaten sides that we should have." So, was everybody predicting that we beat Liverpool? Was they? I don't think they was. I'm sure even Farrell would admit we totally deserve to win that game. So yeah, look, there's no negatives. It's, as I said right at the beginning, it's good to be an Arsenal fan at the moment, and yeah, look, long may it continue. Long may it continue.
Farrell, Liverpool on a very, very good run before they lost to Arsenal, but they haven't let that loss against Arsenal derail them. Since then, they've gone on to beat Burnley 3-1 and 4-1 on the weekend, which saw Mo Salah come back with a goal and an assist just before the cup final. Good timing for your Premier League run and your run towards the end of the season with Salah back.
Oh yeah, no, it's superb timing. I think if you were to ask Jurgen Klopp, he would have probably been happy to bring him on for a bit of a shorter cameo. But it's the nature of the Jota injury. We're talking every kilogram of a 6'4" Christian Norgard falling on Jota's knee. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want him falling on my knee. That's for damn sure. But yeah, I mean, he's just brilliant, isn't he? Comes back straight from that injury after the African Cup of Nations, scores a goal, provides an assist. He's just, he just doesn't. I feel like I talk about this every week, but Mo Salah just simply does not get the credit he deserves as sort of a modern Premier League great. I think if you ask sort of most sort of fans outside of Merseyside what they think of Mo Salah, I think they'll be like, oh, great player. But I don't think anyone sort of perceives him, the way we do, and I don't think the way we perceive him is entirely down to bias. He's world class. He's absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, like you say, I think it puts us in good stead. I think Liverpool have ultimately come out of the Arsenal game and provided a reaction. You look at sort of how many difficulties sort of Liverpool have had this season with injuries. I mean, our injury list is absolutely ridiculous now. Even before we sort of added Jota and Curtis Jones to the mix, and of course Alisson Becker, who somehow managed to pull his hamstring in training. I always find it rather amazing when a goalkeeper does that. But I think this is just a story of sort of perseverance, really, and Liverpool looking in sort of a good mood, I suppose, ahead of the Carabao Cup final. I think I'm a little bit sort of worried with the injuries piling up now, certainly because you're looking at sort of where Klopp's going to go with this midfield, especially. You lost Curtis Jones, who had so much balance to the side. We're missing Dominic Szoboszlai, who's an absolute pressing monster. I'll be very curious to see how we line up come Chelsea.
Yeah, very true. Garth, just on what Farrell said, do you think what do you think the perception of Salah outside of Liverpool is like in your eyes?
Well, I mean, I think of him. I think personally, he's the greatest right winger that the Premier League's ever seen. So, yeah. And that I include Cristiano Ronaldo in that conversation, because Cristiano Ronaldo's time in the Premier League wasn't the Ronaldo you're thinking about. He had 2 seasons of that. The consistency of Salah over the length of time that he's done it, it's amazing. He's one of the best players of all time. There's no question in my mind about it. If you do a Premier League top 5 like forward players, he's in there, guaranteed in my book. I think I don't think there's a conversation about it. I actually listened to you say it, Farrell. That was weird to me because I know myself and Kieran and the people I talk to do not have that perception whatsoever. Like,
present is excluded.
I didn't realize it was other people didn't give him his dues because
do you know what? I think what I hear is a lot of he's just a goal scorer. He can just score. He just scores goals, and it's just a lazy assessment.
Watch him play.
Yeah. The last show I was on, Farrell, I was saying we were talking about Klopp leaving and what you're going to do about Salah. It's like if he leaves, it's like he's at 31 now. It's coming to the end of his career anyway. He's going to be like Virgil van Dijk. You can find he's really good, but you can find a great defender. You cannot replace Mohamed Salah. Like, you can't. There's no one out there that replaces it. Mbappe maybe, but of course, like Liverpool, like no one in the Premier League's getting Mbappe. So yeah, he's one of the best players to ever do it, in my opinion, Mohamed Salah, and he's been a real servant for your club.
I mean, Arteta seems to think you're in the conversation for Mbappe, doesn't he?
Yes!
Hey, slow down. Yeah. We can have a little play around with that. Come on. Yeah. He's going Real Madrid, but we can.
Yeah, he's going Real Madrid.
Yeah. Kevin, what's your perception of Mo Salah? Because I know that Garth said that he feels like he's one of the greatest of all time. Is that your thoughts?
Yeah, listen, I think if you look at it as from the level of like City or United or Arsenal, where Liverpool constantly have been, challenging year in, year out under the Klopp era, the one player that you always, listen, I know it sounds terrible, you're always hoping that maybe when City are playing Liverpool that Salah's unavailable either through suspension or injury or something, because he is an absolutely unbelievable player. I think actually... I think the perception of fans away from Liverpool has changed as well, because when he first came into the Liverpool side, I don't think there's any doubt that he would go down quite easily under a challenge, wouldn't he, I think? And I think that betrayed him as what a really great footballer he was. I think they were highlighted quite often that, the slightest touch in the box and he'd go down and do a triple sulco and all that thing to get a penalty. You don't really see that in him anymore. Actually, he's a much better player when he stays on his feet. The crazy thing is, I like him. I think, I hope if Klopp goes at the end of the season, when Klopp goes at the season, I hope that Salah also thinks maybe that might be time for him to move on, because there's no doubt about the fact he has been a Premier League great. I sort of agree with Farrell. He's not really talked about, I don't think. When you see some of these special pundits talking on, so-called special pundits talking on television about the best overseas players to play in the Premier League, I don't think they talk about Salah a great deal. Now, maybe that might change when he leaves, and that tends to happen. David Silva was the same, very rarely talked about when he was at City. No sooner does he leave the Premier League and everybody starts talking about what a wonderful footballer he is. So maybe that might happen, but I agree, he doesn't get talked about often enough. You just look at, it's not just his stats, I agree, but if you look at his goal-scoring record and his assist record, it's unbelievable. Yeah. Consistently, season in, season out, no one season wonder. I think he's part of what makes Liverpool really tick. And it didn't surprise me really that he came in on Saturday, came in earlier than he would have liked to. That Klopp would have liked him to into that game. I think he sort of got his feet a little bit mixed up early doors when he had a good chance. After that, he was magnificent, wasn't he? You would not know that he was a player that had been injured recently. You would not know that he was a player that had not played in the Premier League for 6 weeks or whatever it was. A fantastic footballer. I don't often talk about Liverpool players with that amount of credit, because when you're talking about opposition players, you try not to a certain extent. You can't not talk about Salah in those terms. He's been magnificent.
Yeah,
and actually, there was a little bit going on in the media a few weeks ago where they were talking about great Liverpool strikers, and I accept he's a winger, but there was all this talk about Fowler and Owen and Rush maybe, and I'm a little bit surprised that even within the Liverpool circles that Salah doesn't get talked about as much as he should do, really.
There was that milestone that came out the other day in terms of Premier League players to have scored and assisted in over 30, sort of 30 or over Premier League games. 4 players have done that: Mohamed Salah, Alan Shearer, Thierry Henry, and Wayne Rooney. What's intriguing, though, is a former colleague of mine, Steve Carson, who now works at Flash Score. He dived into sort of the numbers behind it, so the actual matches these all played. Rooney played 491, Shearer 441, Henry 258, Salah 252. If we're going to, if we're looking at Thierry Henry as being one of the absolute greatest all-time Premier League talents, Salah should be on that bracket in that conversation, even from a numbers perspective. Never mind when we look at sort of his all-round play. He's absolutely off the charts.
Yeah. Two players in that list are grossly underrated now, and I don't even know why. Mo Salah in a season where when Liverpool didn't have the best season last year, he still managed to get 46 goal contributions in 51 games, which is
we were awful.
We were
so bad. Sparrow, sorry, is he injured? Is he injured again?
He's just come back.
I'm just reading here. He got injured at the end of the Brentford game, and he's going to be out and a possible out for the final.
Some rumours from Egyptian TV about fatigue. I think he'll probably be fine for the final, but they might just leave him out of Luton just to be sure.
This is in the Guardian or something. I think. Hold on, which one? It's from a newspaper. Yeah, saying that he's out for Luton, doubtful for the cup final.
Oh, is he now? Oh dear me. Our injuries, man.
Yeah, that's on Twitter. So take that with the shovel of salt that is worth. You know what I mean?
100%. Kevin, Manchester City hit a little bit of a stumbling block against Chelsea. Any other season would be regarded as a point against a solid team, but I think Chelsea's yo-yo form is probably seen in a different way. But has it really dented Manchester City's title hopes? I mean, 11 game win streak, hit a draw. Brentford getting their game in hand back tomorrow against Brentford. Time to really sort of shut people up.
Yeah, listen. I think at this stage of the season, you're not looking to drop any points, are you? But I think Pep mentioned in his press conference today, and as much as City have done it in the past, you can't keep expecting to City going on and winning 20 games towards the end of the season and winning, this, that, and the other. The reality is, I think in the first half on Saturday, we were a little bit off par. I think the formation didn't quite suit the players that Pep had selected. Alvarez in midfield and Akanji moving from defence into that sort of midfield role. But you have to give Chelsea credit as well. I think in the first half, they set themselves up very, very well. I think we were a bit suspect at the back because of the formation and because of Akanji coming out. It was almost like a 3 we were playing there, really. And Chelsea used that quite well. I think the pace in attack sort of put us under a little bit of pressure, and Chelsea probably could have had two goals clear in that first half. I think in the second half we played much better without really, I think most City fans at the game will tell you they thought we were never going to score. Then once Rodri scored, I thought we would probably go on to win it. Haaland I think had 9 shots on Saturday and never looked like scoring. So one of those games, I think. The encouraging thing was once Pep changed it a little bit at half time, the second half we were very, very strong again. We have got the opportunity. We're playing Brentford tomorrow night, which if we win will put us back, a point behind Liverpool. And I've always had these conversations when we've been on this. It's not really about we don't want to be dropping points against Chelsea, and we expect to be beating Brentford. It's not about those games. The most critical games coming up are the ones against Liverpool and Arsenal. I think the reality is, even drawing, we don't want to be drawing at home to Arsenal. A draw away at Anfield is probably not a bad result, But if we drew at Arsenal, if we drew at home to Arsenal and lost at Anfield, that's 5 points out of 6 that you drop. So, if you look at it the other way, if we beat Arsenal and we get a point at Anfield, then that's 4 points out of 6. It's very positive. Those games are definitely critical to all those 3 teams. Absolutely. Because, as Steve said earlier, and Liverpool have been proving it, you are generally between now and the end of the season, I think, unless something crazy happens, Liverpool, Arsenal and City will be winning those games outside of that. They will. I think that's just those 3 teams are miles clear of the other teams in and around in the Premier League. So generally, listen, Liverpool didn't play particularly well, I think, against Burnley, but they won that game comfortably, and that is the difference. I think they do have a belief, and once they get in front, so as much as 2 points were disappointing, dropping 2 points, as much as it was a little bit disappointing on Saturday, I came away thinking, well, okay, we could have lost that game, we picked up a point, but still thinking that it is definitely. And listen, United are in that mix. We've got you from the point of view. We've got United to play in a couple of weeks.
All three of you have.
It's a derby, but Liverpool probably say it's a derby, but it's a derby game, so it's there's a little bit more pressure on. United have started to get themselves into a run. Hodgland is scoring goals, so. But I do think the Liverpool v City and the City v Arsenal, and of course for those two teams as well, they're definitely the critical games, without a shadow of a doubt. But I look at both teams, particularly Arsenal. They've become the free-flowing team that they were last season. Before they cocked it up. Let's not forget they were 8 points clear at some point. Arsenal are looking very good at the moment. They are looking very, very good, So that's not going to be particularly easy either. But without getting too carried away, I'm still, reasonably confident of the treble.
Right.
You're lucky you ain't playing the snare, Kev. That's what you should be thankful for.
Well, already got 3
You're lucky you're not playing us this weekend. Put it that way.
I'd be happy to play you this weekend, Steve. I promise you.
I would be absolutely over the moon, mate. Play you this weekend.
Well, good.
Not sure there's ever a point I'm happy to play.
Yeah, what at the Emirates is it?
No, it's at the Etihad.
It's Etihad.
That's how old I am.
I'll play you down the AstroTurf down the road, mate.
You can't work this out. There's always FIFA. It's just to tie you over.
Goff, Man United not giving up hopes of their top four with 12 points of the last 4 games has shown a lot of resilience, scoring goals, and they've shown that if they pass Højlund the ball, he's actually not a bad player. Is things? Have you seen a difference in the way they're playing? A difference in form?
Yeah, listen, we've got the full team back. It's a shame Martinez has gone down again, but that's the key thing. You look at the problem is it can be deceptive. Like Paul Scholes put that tweet out. I think Gary Neville mentioned it on the thing, which is like Man United are the only team at the moment that can win 5-0 but still get battered on the pitch. Like, it's mad. You say we're getting points. It's a sneaky win against Wolves, a sneaky win against Luton. All right, we smashed up West Ham, but it's easy to smash up West Ham. They're awful at the moment. So, like, I'm not holding out hope for that top 4 still. I think, funnily enough, with what Kev was saying, I think for Man United, it comes down to our results against you 3. If we can get points out of them games, then we've got top 4. Otherwise, I don't see it happening. Højlund, though, very happy at the moment. He's starting them first 10 games. He looked a mess. Like he didn't know how to hold the ball up. It was bouncing like Lukaku bounces off of him down the pitch. Like all he had was the pace, but he's acclimatizing. He looks like he's got a deadly finish on him all of a sudden, which I hope isn't just a small purple patch. And the stats suggest that he plays best with Garnacho on the right, Rashford on the left. With them 3 up front, we're scoring 2.4 goals a game. If one of them's missing, we're down at like 0.9 to 1.1 goals a game, depending who's in there. So, yeah, signs are positive, but we've got some massive games coming up against some very good teams. It's going to be very interesting to see the squad. We can't afford another injury. Casemiro is a walking red card. Like, there's a lot not to be happy about at the moment as well. But positive signs, mate. Positive signs out.
Positive signs. Look, I think you've been a bit harsh on the Wolves one. Look, Wolves have taken points off Tottenham. They've taken points off of Chelsea. They've taken points off of Brighton. Like, they're Brentford, Everton.
Can we stop putting Brighton in this conversation?
They're a decent team. They're a decent team.
The problem is, kid, when you watch the game, we were comfortably 3-1 up. Comfortably 3-1 up. And yet we cannot hold a lead. It is a very lucky result with a wonder goal from Kobe Mainoo. Like, it's not a result. Like, I know it's saying Wolves are a good team. I'm not talking about Wolves, really. I'm talking about Man United's performance. 3-1 up comfortably. You've got to close that game out. Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, we do that to you boys, we're losing. You know what I mean? We're a 2-goal lead and we throw it away. you're not coming back from that. So yeah, it's not the quality of opposition I'm talking about. I'm not trying to deride anyone here. It's the quality of Man United on the pitch at the moment. We are up and down with our in a game. 20 minutes. Yes, games against Luton. First 20 minutes, it was like watching old school United. Next 70 minutes.
Everybody's like, I'll tell you what though, guys.
Sitting there like,
everybody's focused about I'm just gonna say, like, it's for me that was a good result because all our teams sitting here, we've found it really hard this season. When you go to Luton, it's a really, really difficult place to go. We they went in front against us, and we only come back in the last minute or so. Rice headed that won us a game. I think
taking points off some decent teams.
City just about got over the line, if I can remember. Kevin will, if I'm wrong.
We've been 2-1, I think. Yeah.
And Liverpool only got a point there, mate. So
yeah,
if you can go there, get in, get out. I know what you're saying. You're saying that if you look back over games previous, you've had the same type of
papering over the cracks.
Yeah, but Luton is difficult. If you take that as a single one game, I 2-1, get in, get out, mate. 3 points I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, the question was about the Champions League, and that's where I'm coming from this angle. If we're making Champions League, it has to be 3 points against Luton. It has to be 3 points against Burnley. There's no excuses. I don't care how good they are on their day. If we're talking about being a top 4 team, you have to get points there. You have to. So especially when we're so far behind. So I know I'm not doing any of these teams. They're all good. The Premier League these days is stacked from 1 to 20. So
Steve, we've seen not just Arsenal scoring a lot of goals, but we've seen at the back impenetrable. What difference have you noticed in the team? Not just going forward, but at the back as well.
Yeah, I mean, another year experience. Another year of Saliba and Gabriel playing together. Obviously, a fantastic partnership. Declan Rice, who's now just marshals in front of them. Ben White's now back to his best, and we've also got to give a massive shout out to Jacob Kior, who's the last couple of games has been again outstanding. Arteta's come a little bit away from his way of thinking with the inverted midfielder with Kior. I mean, he played there against Fulham and he was absolutely awful. But when he has played recently, he hasn't asked him to do that, and he's just used him as an attacking fullback stroke, wing back defender, and he's been brilliant. And yeah, he could be there for the future. I mean, we've always said that Zinchenko's defensive abilities is lacking a little bit. We worry at times about him, although he's a great footballer. Kior is probably better defensively, and he's looking really tasty going forward as well. So him there, having Zinchenko there is good. Rice, who's sitting is in front of him, and as I say, already said there that Ben White is now back to his sort of last season best. We're seeing the Ben White of last season. He's now inverted into the midfield. I think with Mikel Arteta, what Arsenal tend to do, they do one, not necessarily two. They only need the one player to invert, not two of them. So it suits Arsenal fine that Kior's, when he plays, that he can't do it. It suits our way of play. And look, we've got to give a massive shout out to David Raya, because the way he's helping that defence massively, and the way we play, the way he he marshals that back four. He's safe. He's he never drops anything. His distribution is like up there with the best in the Premier League. And I think with him as well, I can see now why Arteta bought him. I mean, you've got to be a blind man not to. He stands out of country mile.
I really don't think it's that cut and shut, if I'm honest. I still don't.
Yeah.
I still don't.
Saving 2 games.
I agree. I agree that David Raya's distribution has been second to none. Honestly, the pace at which he's getting the balls out to those players is. I think 2 goals have come directly from his distribution and throwing it out. But for me, I don't agree. And I definitely feel that he's definitely got better. I feel that in terms of if you're talking about Aaron Ramsdale and David Raya, right now I can't say that Raya should be that Ramsdale should go and goal. But I can't. I still stand by I don't feel like David Raya needs to be bought. I still don't feel like he needs to be bought. I'm not. It's not anything against Raya or anything against Arteta, but I can't say now that for me that's clear as day. That's a no-brainer. That has to be done.
I know you're a goalkeeper, so mate, look, I got to listen to you from what I see. Right, for me, like I would, if I wasn't talking to you as a goalkeeper, I would be saying there's no way that I can see Ramsdale as safe with the ball. There's no way he plays the ball through the lines like Raya does, passes the ball through the lines like Raya does, throws the ball out to the people like Raya does, and it just I don't see it. And when he comes up against a shot, look, we don't want him to make many shots. You know, most of the top keepers don't make loads of saves. I keep hearing this thing, he didn't have nothing to do. He didn't make loads of saves. But when you're a goalkeeper for Arsenal, Liverpool, or Manchester City, you know, your goalkeeper just makes one save once in a blue moon. Otherwise, you're not a top team when you haven't got a top defence. And Arsenal have got a top defence. But he was called upon against Burnley, and he made a top save, and that's a really good save, which people seem to forget. But look, I mean,
stats, did he actually? Because I'm reading that he has saved 1 shot in the last 3 games.
Yeah, but that
was against. No, but I'm saying this big save that you saved. Apparently against Burnley, he didn't save a single shot. I don't think
Burnley had a shot on target, did they?
Yeah, they didn't have a single shot on target, Burnley.
Oh, 100%, 100%. 100 and 100%.
On target at all.
No shots on target, no saves from Raya. That's what I'm reading on transfermarket.com right here.
I don't care what it says. Right,
forget up to Joe.
No, I don't. It was the shot where he went round and he put a strong arm down to it, and he banged. If you watched the game, you would have remembered it.
I didn't. Sorry, that's what I was asking. I didn't watch the game.
And he put his hand out. And look, I'll send it to you. You know, the WhatsApp after the game. He put his hand out. It was a strong arm, and the geezer shot, and he saved it. And that was against Burnley on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, when Alisson makes great saves or Edison makes great saves, it's the odd one, isn't it? Do you know, they're never put under that much pressure where they're being absolutely pelted and pelleted with shots, because they've both got absolutely quality defences. But with Arsenal, which Raya's only made 1 save in 3 games. Well, good. I'm glad. I'm good. I'm glad he's played 1 shot, because that means our defence will be shit. So
Onana's faced 42 in the last 2 games.
Well,
I'd much rather 1 in 3, mate.
That absolutely proves my point. So all this, he's only made 1 save. Good. I'm glad he's only made 1 save. But when he gets called upon to make it, he makes it. So, and that's a sign of a good team, a good defence, a good goalkeeper. And I don't think you can question his ability as someone who, when he's got the ball at his feet, his distribution, and he makes the saves when needed. And we look stronger. Arsenal are a better team now than we was last season, without any shadow of that. Over the last 6 games, right, if this team played this team now of last season, this team would win. I've got no shadow of that whatsoever. There was weaknesses, nasty. You don't see it at the time. You get excited because you see this free-flying Arsenal. But watching this team, and now you think back to looking at last year's team, I wouldn't say it's streets ahead, but this team would beat that team. You know, and so
margins. This team's not conceding the same amount of goals in games against like Bournemouth, Brentford, like those games. Big difference, especially tightened it up defensively. Farrell, the questions coming up. Klopp, who's going to take the reins from Klopp? A lot of noise this week has been coming up with Xavi Alonso. But is he really the right man in a season where Bayern Munich have been poor, a very poor Bayern Munich? I'm not taking it away from Leverkusen because they've stepped it up. But is that really a gauge to be the next Liverpool manager based on what Leverkusen have done this season? What's your thoughts?
I mean, you have to look at where Leverkusen were before Alonso took the job, because if, pardon me, if memory serves, they were either floating in or around the relegation zone in the Bundesliga when Alonso took the job mid-season. He then took them to 6th in the Bundesliga, took them to a semi-final in the Europa League. They lost that one to Roma, I believe it was, who went on to the final. And this season, we're talking about, he has transformed a team from top to bottom. He's made, and this is the critical thing, he's made players better, he's brought players up.
They were second from bottom last season, weren't they, Farrell? Second from bottom last season.
That's where he picked them up. That's where he picked them up. They were floating around the relegation zone. So it took them to 6th that season. This season, we're talking now, it's an 8-point gap. And I think it's a bit disrespectful to what Alonso's done at Leverkusen to say, well, Bayern are shit, so he can't be doing that well. Even if we are looking at, Bayern being, generally speaking, the sole sort of dominant team in the Bundesliga, as has generally been the case since Klopp left the league, it still takes... I mean, I don't see any other side doing a better job than Leverkusen. If Bayern are so shit, we should be surely seeing Dortmund higher than Bayern. We should surely be seeing...
Yeah, good point.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it is still Bayern Munich. The mentality is still there to a certain degree. The players, the quality of the squad is still there to a certain degree. The expectations on Bayern critically are still there. They've signed Harry Kane in the summer, who still scored an absolute shed ton of goals for them, even if we're going to criticise his recent performances. This is still Bayern Munich. It's not. I mean, just ask Klopp. He did it twice in a row. He won the league twice in a row. Struggled all the other times, partly because the reality, of course, living in the Bundesliga is if you're a decent side, Bayern will pinch your best players. That's just how it works. We look at certainly Florian Wirtz, and a lot of the speculation around Wirtz is he'll probably be a Bayern player in the next sort of 2 seasons. If they're at Leverkusen, that's the understanding, but that is a possibility. I personally think he's doing a fantastic job, and that's not me saying that as a Liverpool fan, a Liverpool writer, having seen Alonso play for Liverpool. It has nothing to do. I think that certainly helps, and I think if you're looking at who you're going to bring in as a Liverpool manager, the key thing for me is it can't just be someone who is tactically astute, who knows how to get the best out of it. But those are important, don't get me wrong, very important. But to take the Liverpool job, and you've seen this with Klopp, you need to have a capacity to have an emotional connection with the fans. This football club does not thrive with this kind of... I was speaking to Neil Jones this morning, and the example he gave was, if you look at Manuel Pellegrini, sort of as a comparison, not as passionate as a Klopp, certainly doesn't have that same connection with the fans. You need that. You need that at Liverpool Football Club. You do need that. I think Liverpool certainly, Klopp's got the best out of Liverpool, not just because of his ability to develop players, to bring youth players up, to transform even players who are already brilliant into world-class stars like sort of Mohamed Salah. It's his ability to connect. He's often mocked after the 2-2 draw against West Brom for taking the players over the fans to congratulate him. Everyone absolutely slammed him. Yeah, everyone absolutely slammed him. No one could think in the future what that meant, and building that connection back and that trust that ultimately had been lost after years of Brendan Rodgers, Roy Hodgson. So I think Alonso. I mean, Klopp said it himself, didn't he? He sort of said if you look at sort of the current young managers sort of coming through, he is the standout option. You can list other names like Ruben Amorim, Sporting Lisbon. I think I wouldn't classify Roger Schmidt as even old. I think he's older than Klopp, if I remember, or as old as Klopp.
What's your thoughts on De Zerbi? I'm quite surprised by people's reaction to it. They've shut it down straight away.
I wouldn't. I'm not saying I'm shutting it down. I think he's certainly higher up the list than say Postecoglou or Roger Schmidt, who have been linked. He's higher up on the list. I just wouldn't. He doesn't feel like a perfect fit for Liverpool. I think he's. Don't get me wrong. That's not me. Taking apart anything he's done at Brighton. I think he's an absolutely fantastic coach. I think the job he's done at Brighton has been brilliant. Yeah. it just doesn't feel like the right fit for Liverpool. I'm
So,
sure
Farrell,
he'll make.
if it's not Alonso, and listen, I think it
Yeah.
looks like it might be him. I think because he's also keeping very quiet about it. And listen, I'd sort of go along with you. I think just because Bayern themselves are not doing so great, you should never take away the credit that goes to Alonso for what he's achieved with that football club. But if it wasn't Alonso, just going back to your previous point then, does that mean that Steven Gerrard has a better chance than somebody like De Zerbi because of that connection with the fans?
I see your point, but I would say no. I
think they should phone him up now.
You know what?
Stick him in that seat. Shit crop off early retirement.
To Liverpool, mate.
I bet you all can't wait.
No. I'm just thinking that going back to your point, and I can sort of see that. But if it's not Alonso, then who else out there is there that would naturally have that connection with the Liverpool fans?
Tough to say.
When I talk about the emotional connection, I think because you have to. I mean, you look at Jurgen Klopp coming in. Jurgen Klopp had absolutely no affiliation to Liverpool Football Club before he took the job. So I think Alonso having that. I've played for Liverpool before, but I think if you look at how he is sort of at Leverkusen as well, he has that capacity to connect with fans as well. Maybe not in the same way as Jurgen Klopp, but he does have that capacity. So I think it's not.
That's one of the reasons I do still think that Postecoglou might still be within a chance of that. I just, because he's built a fantastic relationship with Spurs fans straight away, and he's not a Spurs fan. He's not from
London. Anymore, mate. Not anymore. It's going the other way.
I think that relation. How many? Come on, you don't be too disrespectful to him. I think he's doing a great job at top.
What's the last word of Spurs? One of the biggest Spurs web podcast that there is going there. Go and watch it this week, right? They'll tell you about what they think of Ange Postecoglou. Great manager going forward. You know, as this thing, but he's literally absolutely clueless at doing anything else.
I don't think.
No.
To be honest with you,
look, I don't watch Tottenham games.
He's in his first season in the Premier League, which we've already discussed is one of the toughest leagues to play in. And
he hasn't got a clue, Kev. Kev, he has no idea. He hasn't.
I mean,
let me finish.
I don't answer Kevin's question.
You can't say he's not got a clue. Come on,
let me finish. You're cutting me off in after I've said one word. Right?
Say something interesting, Steve.
Well, I'm telling you, I was listening to the podcast. Right? When they're on the ball, they will beat some of the top teams. When they're on it, right? But if he needs to change it, he doesn't know. He doesn't know what to do. He hasn't got a clue. And I was listening to, as I say, Last Word on Spurs, which is the biggest Tottenham Spurs coverage. If you ever watch it, right? Got some very, very intelligent Spurs fans on there. And they've literally said they love Ange. When we're playing football, he loves playing the Spurs way, but he's got to learn to play and play B, because at the moment, all season, they just haven't seen it. And they're convinced that he doesn't know how to do it. So when I said I haven't got a clue, it wasn't he hasn't got a clue as a manager. He just does not know how to change tactics in a football match that well. He doesn't. He just does not know how to do it. And you've got the biggest Tottenham web podcast on the planet, if you like, saying exactly the same thing. So it's not just me. Everybody else is saying, I pray to God you get Ange Postecoglou, mate, because he'll destroy you. Right? He just can't. He can't do it. It's okay when his football's playing his way. If players try and mix it up, and as I said, they keep saying they've sussed them out. It's got to change. This is not the Australian Football League. This is not the SPL. This is the Premier League, right? And at the moment, in certain games, he's looking like that. He hasn't got the intel. He may change. He may learn, but at the moment,
I think that's quite disrespectful, even from Spurs fans. It's his first season in the Premier League, isn't it? Let's be honest. I think
he's done it his whole career, though, Kev. He's done it his whole career.
I think he's played some great football. I think you're probably right. I think that line that he plays is probably too much of a high line, but he's been quite brave in that he's brought defenders in and he's replacing players in the Tottenham squad who have had experience. But he's saying no, he wants to do it his way. He's changed the goalkeeper. I don't think you can judge him negatively within his first season in the Premier League. He has clearly. Sometimes you look at games and you think, oh, maybe he should tighten that up a little bit now. But the starting point is he's a very positive manager. One of the great things I like about him as well, he never blames anybody else. Never. Even opportunities where decisions have gone against them, City played, I didn't think it was a foul when City played them in the FA Cup and City scored that last minute goal. And, some Spurs fans are saying it's a foul. And Postecoglou said, well, the referee didn't think it was a foul. And then VAR looked at it and they didn't think it was a foul. So chances are it's not a foul.
I think you have to listen to. I think you have to listen to. Like I don't watch Spurs all the time, but I think you've got to listen to Spurs fans that go to the games week out, every single game.
Why would you listen to Spurs fans about anything? They have no knowledge in anything to do with football.
Well, Kev, when it comes to Manchester City, mate, you're the man. But when it comes to Spurs,
but we don't have a Spurs representative on here, do we?
There's a reason. There's a reason. I couldn't bear it. Farrell,
I'm not saying. Okay, just
to Farrell. Go on.
Sorry, I just want to. I'd never got a chance to actually address sort of Kevin's question. I do want to briefly touch on the conversation you've just had. I think the important distinction to make about Ange Postecoglou is it's his first. You've got to lay down principles in your first season. It's not going to be the complete product. I remember when Klopp came in and everyone was like, "Oh, it's." Gegenpressing, it's heavy metal football, and these lads just keep animals. They're chasing, and there were so many criticisms of like how Klopp sort of set up his sides and that. But you've got to lay down principles. Yeah. You've got to say this is an identity. This is how we're going to play, and evolve that year to year to year. We don't play the same. We're playing a mixture of possession-based football. We're closer to Guardiola's sort of style of play now than we are to sort of a typical kind of Klopp team when he came in 2015-16. I think. Yeah. Look, listen. I'm not privy. I can't sit here and say I've watched loads of Celtic. I've watched loads of the Australian national side. I've watched loads of when he had that stint in Japan, I think it was. Yeah. I can't sit here and say I've watched how his football has evolved team to team to team. But, you have to lay down principles. And there's so many managers who come into the Premier League, who come into any league across the world, that struggle to do that in their first season alone. And that is the difference between managers that will survive in the league and managers that will get the sack in 2 or 3 years after maybe a purple patch of form. That's it.
But he won't make Premier League. Well, he won't make top 4 this year. I guarantee you.
Maybe. But he's not doing what he's doing. Yeah, not doing what he's doing. You've got to lay down principles. You've got to lay down something to build upon. But so many managers don't do that, and they struggle for it. Klopp got criticised.
I think they're too worried.
But has he had a record of doing that in the past? Yes or no?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. I've not watched his prior team.
No, and he won the league in Scotland. I mean, and you might say the poor leagues, but the reality is he's still got to go in there and bring in a style of play, bring an identity. Now, in the 2 countries that he's managed in, he's won the league in both of them. It's not his fault that people will say both of them may be farmers' leagues. That's not the point. He's gone in, created an idea. Listen, Celtic have struggled since he's gone, by the way. So maybe that shows that there is something about him. Listen, I would, I like him. I do think he's very brave. I think he's gone into the Premier League. His style of play is not the style of play that. Going back to your point, Farrell, I think within the next 18 months, it will be slightly different because he will work on things that are currently negative about the Spurs, the way that Spurs play football. But his identity will not change. Spurs are a very attractive football team to watch. They are. And I think they're not far away from challenging to be certainly top 6, possibly top 4 team. It probably won't be this season. It probably won't.
But they've always been that, Kev.
Earlier on in this conversation, we were talking about the possibility of United finishing in the top 4, which they might do. But let's just say, hypothetically, then surely Spurs must have a chance.
Yeah, they do.
Spurs have got a better chance than Man United. 100%. 100%. Sorry, Kev.
No, if you was going to say something, I'm just going to go to you anyway.
I'm going to ask Farrell about my choice, which was I had a a feeling about Unai Emery taking over there, because I don't think I honestly I reckon Xabi Alonso's going Bayern because Tuchel's getting the sack. So I think that's what's going to happen there. And if he doesn't come in out of everyone else I'm looking at on this list, I'd pump for Unai Emery as a makeshift, keep you going for a couple of seasons until someone comes available. What's your thoughts on Emery taking over?
I genuinely think Unai Emery won't and shouldn't be anywhere near. Don't get me wrong, he's doing a fantastic. I don't want this to come as disparaging to the man and the character and the individual and his ability.
Would you have Ange instead of Emery? Would you have Ange instead of Emery?
I'd have Ange instead of Emery, 100%.
100%.
But to address,
Deserve it.
I don't rate the Derby though, so I know most people over the
Go and watch that podcast and go and listen to some Spurs fans.
I don't know after having Emery as manager why you'd think that Emery is anything but a top 4 manager to get a team into top 4.
Yeah.
Like
that's what I meant though.
Like, see that with Aston Villa. I think you'll see that with Aston Villa. They've got the best manager they can get to get where they need to go to. Aston Villa I don't see as a team without any real ambition to go on to win the Premier League. They're a team that's trying to get into top 4, trying to break into Europe. And that's the manager they've got, Emery. Any expectations on Aston Villa, they're falling apart. They're falling apart. He's not that guy. He's there. He's in the previous at PSG. He's in the previous at Arsenal. Very good coach, but he's not the guy that's going to take you to win a league. And Liverpool need to be in and around that.
Yeah. I think the thing that sort of distinguishes it as well is the Liverpool job is a young man's job. I have to say. Obviously, Unai Emery isn't ancient. He's 52. Postecoglou is 58, and that was the main point. I never actually got to answer Kevin's point about sort of emotion and about that. It's though that's a good point to make about when you look in a future Liverpool manager. It is a young man's. You've got to look at Jurgen Klopp now, 56 years of age, saying, "I'm running out of energy. I don't have enough to do this job justice." And he says, "If I can't give it 100%, there's no point." And it's heartbreaking, but I agree with him, and he's making the best decision for the club. If I look at Postecoglou, who's 2 years older, do I think this man has what it takes to stick in this job for as long as Jurgen did, 8 years, maybe longer, ideally, and keep us going at that same capacity? I don't think he does. Do I think Unai Emery can do it? I don't think he can. You look at the sort of the candidates that are being listed. I think Ruben Amorim is one of the youngest at 38. Alonso's 42. We're looking at a certain range of sort of coaches with the capacity to potentially stay in the job for at least 5 years, hopefully longer, hopefully the same sort of length that Jurgen has.
Can I ask you a question, Farrell? Can I ask you a question?
Of course you can, mate.
You say you're saying it's a young man's job, and I get that because you say you look at managers nowadays, the Guardiolas, your Artetas, they're going on this young man path. But your side now is for me is there. You've got experienced players. If for instance, like Salah stays, you've already got Alisson and Van Dijk stays. Do you feel you're going to need a more experienced manager? So because you're in a situation now for me that where you are that you could go and win trophies now. So bringing in a young manager who possibly hasn't won a lot, who's not as experienced, may sort of like rock the boat and not be able to take the star players that you've already got forward. Where if you got in someone like I don't know, a Zidane or a Xavi or a Mourinho, for a couple of years, because of the stars and the players that you've got now, to go and win a Champions League in the next 2 years, a title in the next 2 years, do you think that would be a better way to go? And then in 2 years' time, when, say, Van Dijk moves on, the Salahs moves on, then the youngsters are coming through, the Bradleys and whatever, and they're playing more regular, then bring your Alonso in. Then bring your young man in. Just a thought, mate.
But that depends entirely if Alonso. You see, I had a similar discussion with Liverpool fans about this, about having a placeholder there for 2 years, wait to see how Alonso does. But the problem is you can't guarantee that Alonso is still going to be available in 2 years' time. Yeah. You're looking at Ancelotti's just signed. Yeah, Ancelotti's just signed a contract that will take him to 2026. If he even stays that long, we know what the expectations are like Madrid. You can win a lot of things and it's still not good enough. You need to be winning everything at Madrid. Otherwise, you're second best in their eyes. The expectation levels are insane. Similarly at Bayern, the expectations, You know, we're looking at those two clubs. The expectation levels there are absolutely off the charts. You can come second, and it's a sackable offence.
So, are you willing to go a little bit backwards, for instance? Just say you bought a young manager who's not as experienced.
I wouldn't view it as going backwards. I wouldn't view it as going backwards. You
not
have to remember,
not backwards, but you know, maybe sort of not maybe starting again a little bit, bringing the youngsters through, and because that's what Alonso is, isn't he? That's what he's about.
It's part of what he's about. But listen, anyone that comes in after Jurgen Klopp is, to a certain degree, at least initially, going to be a step down. Absolutely anyone. You look at for me, you've got to look at the bracket of managers that are currently out there, right? I would put Jurgen Klopp in the same bracket as Pep Guardiola. And those two, for me, are absolutely better than everyone else. You can argue putting Ancelotti there as well, of course. But, you know, those three, regardless, better than absolutely anything out there. For me personally, I don't think Zidane has ever been properly tested as a coach. That's my opinion. I'm sure people will disagree with me given the trophies he's won at Madrid. But you've got to look at the squad he's had, like the kind of club Madrid are. I think it's less dependent to a certain degree on the manager you have there than, say, at clubs like Liverpool, City, Arsenal. It makes a difference. So let's assume, you know, for the sake of argument, that Liverpool aren't getting Pep Guardiola. That's not going to happen, right? Liverpool aren't getting Carlo Ancelotti, nor do we want them for the very reason I stated for Postecoglou and Emery. It's the age factor. You want a young man.
Xavi hasn't come up. It's the first time I've heard Xavi pop up. Would there be any interest?
No. With all due respect to Xavi, no. Personally, I wouldn't be interested. If I was in the Liverpool recruitment team, I wouldn't be going near him. No. So we have that bracket of managers that we assume that Liverpool aren't going to get because Klopp's going. You're not going to get Guardiola. You're not going to get Ancelotti. Fine. The managers that you're looking underneath that, you could argue perhaps the experience. So you look at your Emerys, etc. But then you're basically going to your up and coming managers. You're of the sort of bracket of your Arteta, your Ruben Amorims, Alonso, and you're thinking, well, you're not going to get Arteta. You're not going to get Arteta from Arsenal. So if you're looking at the options there available, you are shopping in the market of Alonso, of Amorim, of the managers who are coming through. So if you're looking of those options, Alonso is at the very least one of, if not the standout option in my eyes. So I don't see. And the thing is, I have to ask myself is, am I going to kick myself if Liverpool bring in Zidane for 2 years or someone else as a placeholder for 2 years and Alonso goes to Madrid and wins everything with Madrid, and then we're thinking, fuck, we could have had him. He could have revolutionised our style of play. He could have brought through younger players, helped us win several more league titles, several Champions League titles. Am I going to kick myself more watching him win everything with Madrid than if he comes out to Liverpool and we say, look, he was one of the brightest young managers at the time. He looked fantastic. He had the connect, ticked all the, we're not talking tactically he's brilliant. It's not just the emotional connection we're talking about with Xabi Alonso, and he develops young players. He's ticking all these he's ticking as many boxes as you can possibly tick if you're not Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
We can at least hold our hands and say, look, we did our due diligence. We looked at him. He's done a fantastic job abroad. We brought him over from the same league as our last manager came. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But we're not looking here saying there was an obvious man Liverpool should have brought in, as was the case when we brought in Klopp. He was the best thing we could possibly get on the market, Jurgen Klopp. It was so obvious.
Is Nagelsmann in the frame, do you think?
It's a good shot.
I think he'll be on the short list, but he is on the short list, but he'll be lower down on the short list than say. It's bliss of the nature of the football world.
He understands that Klopp mentality as well, doesn't he? I think.
Yeah, I don't understand why his stock's fallen.
His allegiance to German football and what he's Red done there, and and that relationship. Going back to your point about that relationship between coaches in Germany and the supporters, that could be a natural fit as well, I think. So I do think Alonso would be favourite, but I wouldn't be surprised if for some reason Alonso did go to Bayern, but I just can't see that, to be honest with you. I think he's too close to German football to not see that there's something a little bit more wrong at Bayern Munich than just the coach.
Bayern's more of a risk as well, isn't it? I think if you look at
that's what I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you look at this is the problem happening as well. You look at what happened with Nagelsmann. He was one of the brightest young coaches in the game.
Yeah.
It took a step too early, it fell short, and they went, right, you're off. But a very difficult job Nagelsmann had to do, by the way, because he was basically tasked with coming in and saying that you need to bring through some younger players here. Had one slightly off season by Bayern standards, and he was off. Whereas if you look at Alonso and you think, well, I could go to Liverpool and they've got a track. I mean, look at how we treated Rodgers and he was nowhere near the manager Klopp is. I'll go to Liverpool and Fenway Sports Group will give me several years at least.
They'd be patient with him at the Liverpool, wouldn't they? They would definitely be patient with Alonso.
Oh yeah,
I think now it's shown that you had to have patience, and it's not just
the supporters would be more patient with Alonso than they would be with some other options. I think, there is they're certainly hoping he doesn't need it. But if he did go in and there was a period of where he's got to change things around and different style of play, it will be a different style of play under Alonso than it has been under Klopp. But because of that, it's a new project, so to speak, rotation of players. Some players might need to move. Liverpool fans, I think, would be quite patient with Alonso as long as they could see what the process was. Whereas if it was somebody like Emery or, I don't know, De Zerbi or what have you, I don't think the Liverpool fans would be patient with that choice at all.
Yeah. Personally, I think that they do need I think they need something fresh. It's just if Liverpool at that balance. Klopp has got the team so far in a transition with the likes of Nunes and some of the other players, Graham Birch and Szoboszlai, that I think with the transition of the old guys starting to move out, I think a young manager would be perfect to come in with those young players. They can also see what we've also got on the youth as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big job next season for somebody. But because of this, there is going to be. Robertson will probably be one of those players who they might look at moving on. Maybe Van Dijk, Salah, we've talked about the different reasons. Jota, maybe even Jota, somebody like Jota. I think they're... So I think you're right, Farrell. I think it's somebody who will have to come in and have a bond with the fans, and that creates a little bit of patience. If that's not going to be there, it's going to be tough.
Another bit of news coming out of Manchester is Dan Ashworth potentially going to be Manchester United's sporting director. Garth, is that music to your ears? Is a bit more structure, or potentially even if it's not him, that it could be some structure coming in at Man United that could help move the club back to where they need to be?
Yeah, I can't lie. I'm not very au fait with all of the background staff as it is already said. For what I've heard of him, very impressive. But as a Man United fan at the moment, I was told that we've not had a great football, but the last ones that come through, the last businessmen that come through are all going to be amazing. Until I see it happening, then I can be hopeful. At the moment, it's still Man United owned by the Glazers. I know Steve disagrees with me. I'm still adamant that Ineos haven't got complete control of Man United footballing affairs anyway. The Glazers ain't going to let go of that.
But do you not feel like it will make a difference?
It depends, doesn't it? If the Glazers relinquish that control to him, then yes. Yeah. If they're still getting their noses in, because what I understand about whichever one it is it Joel? Joel does not want to be on the outside. Yeah.
What do you mean by complete control, Garth? What do you mean by complete control?
Every single footballing decision, the Glazers have apart from funding it, they have no input whatsoever. I don't believe it, mate, because the Glazers, everything I know about it. I mean, have you seen the contract, Steve? You keep saying that. Until I see the contract, until I see it written in blood on paper, and they've signed it, I don't believe it, mate. I don't believe it.
I'm only
scorned.
Like, listen, what Hakeem said.
I'm only going by what a good friend of ours for the show said and told me.
Yeah, but no one. This like Hakeem
can't
said.
Go
no one knows.
That.
No one knows what's in that contract, and anyone that does say they know what's in that contract. Anyone who does say they know what's in that contract is lying, because it will be completely clandestine at the moment. There's no way that anyone knows outside of the main parties what is in that contract. For all we know, the Glazers have got a little clause in there that says, yeah, you can have control. The moment it starts affecting our pocket, we're back in. The moment we're not seeing dividends, we're back in. The moment something there'll be clauses upon clauses upon clauses. Yes, I am happy that we're getting structure in this club, but the Man United's run so badly at the moment that until I see the improvement that these people are going to bring, I know Kevin's talking about Berardi as someone who's definitely going to help us, and I hope so as well. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully. Yeah. But it's also this thing, you're building this super team.
Agent Berardi.
Are they all going to work together? Are they going to gel?
See, these people are not going to.
but against another philosophy.
These people these people are big people have coming into Man United. So Jim Ratcliffe, Dan Ashworth from Newcastle, Omar Brady from Manchester. These are top. There is no way whatsoever they would come into Manchester United. My opinion, again, I haven't seen the contract. I just feel there is no way these massive names have come from big football clubs to go to Manchester United to have to ask Joel Glazer, can I go and buy that player? I just do not believe it for one iota.
I don't have an inside view on this, but like I understand where Garth's coming from as someone like, we used to be owned by Hicks and Gillette. We're talking like, top
from an outsider point of view. I don't know that.
Do you know what I mean? And like the anxiety of like not knowing the direction the club's going in, and even when Fenway were coming in, I thought, another bunch of Yanks. Where's this going to sort of take us?
Yeah.
Ultimately, how Fenway have done an absolutely superb job. They've not got everything right, but they've done a superb job on the balance with Liverpool. So I think I understand where he's coming from. It is that perpetual state of anxiety until you see genuine improvement.
These are massive names like Farrell, aren't they? Owen Barada, Dan Ashworth. These are huge people.
Let me ask you this, though. Where's the money for transfers coming from? Is it still coming from the Glazers? Are you trying to tell me that the Glazers are going to have no control over where their money is spent? I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Well, obviously they're the people who are going to give the money, the budget.
So they're going to.
But they're not going to have no, because they can't just Dan Ashworth and Owen Brady and. They just can't go and take money because they fancy
without the guys to say so. Yeah.
So Jim Ratcliffe is there for everything to do with football.
Is he going to fund every transfer? Is he funding every transfer, or is it coming out the Glazers' pocket? Because if it's coming out the Glazers' pocket in any way, shape, or form, there is no way on God's green earth that they've got no say in it whatsoever. There's no way. They're
going to have some say because they're the owners, and every fan of every club
literally
got to expect.
5 minutes ago, you were saying to me, "Oh no, Ineos have definitely got complete control over footballing operations,
over football operations, players, training, who comes in.
That includes transfers." That includes transfers.
No.
Football.
In other words, football matters. On the pitch, going to get transfer players, bringing in who they want to bring in, getting the players that they want to get. If you're talking about, every single sporting director in the sun, whether it's Edu, whether it's whoever, everybody under the sun has to go to their owners and say, "Can I have some money?"
All right, so football operations. Man United need a new stadium coming out of the Glazers' pocket. Are you telling the Glazers going to have no input in the new stadium?
Well, I don't know what. I don't know.
Of course they are. What businessman? What businessman is just going to hand over control to the 25% minority stakeholder?
Yeah, but now you're going on to the stadium. That's what you talk. You said football.
Football matters. Steve, mate, you're trying to backtrack everything. Football matters. Transfers, the stadium, the training.
Not the stadium.
Complex,
the stadium. You don't. Stadiums is not football matters. Stadiums not football.
In my mind, football matters. Or are you going to get the fans if there's no stadium to watch the football?
Has a stadium got to do with on the football pitch? On the football pitch, transfers, bringing players in.
The pitch. I don't care. You just said, who's paying for them? Who's paying for them?
Every club has to go to the owner to ask for the money.
Exactly. So they haven't got 100% control, have they? Because the Glazers can turn around.
Oh, neither has any club.
Yeah, I think it remains to be seen in the coming seasons
Every club has to do that.
What Dan Ashworth and what Berardi has to
the only thing the whole Dan Ashworth thing is a little bit surprising to me. I mean, he must have a great agent, Dan Ashworth, because he's built up this fantastic reputation.
Yeah.
How has his reputation helped Newcastle?
Oh, since he's come in, they've brought in some players. Isaac,
did he buy Tonoli? Tonoli?
Yeah.
So he did no due diligence on a player that was about
Man United
for 10 months.
Bruno Guimaraes, he brought in.
Garamesh.
These are top.
If he's buying in a player,
before, I think you'll find.
Yeah, and if he's buying in a player that's got 10 months banned for what he's got, then he ain't doing his due diligence. That is a black mark on his record.
You're picking the one you want to pick out. He's done some good work.
signing Nick Pope and Anthony Gordon. I mean, to be fair, you and I could have persuaded Newcastle to sign Nick Pope and Anthony Gordon. I don't think that's particularly they're the most difficult.
Gamires, Arsenal were going to get him.
No, it was Gamires was before.
Was it? Okay, mate, I'll be corrected on that one, mate. But he's a big name. He was the guy. He was the guy.
He did a great job by getting very much unknown players into Brighton.
Wasn't he Chelsea as well? Was he at Chelsea as well, or was that the other guy?
I think this role at United is going to be different. The United fans aren't going to be looking for him to go and find young players in South America or Belgium or wherever it is. United supporters are going to be looking for their director of football to be persuading the best stars in the world to sign for Manchester.
That's why they brought them people in.
I'm not quite sure that Dan Ashworth is quite that person, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so.
If I'm honest, I think Man United need to have a little bit more of not looking at the best players in the world in terms of. And I don't mean the top talent. I don't mean the best players. I mean the top talent. That's what they need to go for. Man United used to buy the best in the Premier League, which wasn't necessarily the biggest names in the world, and they switched that and started bringing in the big names. The big names haven't done anything for Man United in the last 5-6 years.
No, I'm not talking about big names. I'm talking about being in with the shout of signing the best players that everybody knows are the right. Van Dijk when he was going to Liverpool, or Haaland when he was going to City. That sort of player. That's the argument. That's the fight that United need to be in.
I don't think United are in that place. I think that United need to totally rebuild from the bottom upwards.
Listen, I'm talking as a City fan. United is still one of the biggest clubs in the world.
No, I know, but I think they need something different from City. They're not in your position.
United can't be in that fight when the best players in the world are available for the likes of Liverpool and City, Real Madrid, Chelsea, whoever it might be. If United are not in that conversation, there is something wrong somewhere. And I'm just not sure.
No, I think it just happens, Kev. I think it just happens sometimes, doesn't it? Look, Arsenal were in a situation where we had the best players coming to our clubs at one point, and then we hit a brick wall.
I don't remember that era.
And then we had to start building from the bottom. We could.
Was that the Francis Jeffers era? Was that then the Freddie Jeffers Richard Wright era? Was that
we had to look at young players. We had to look at the third tier.
I don't think United. Listen, I don't think United.
I think they do. I think Garth does, because we've had conversations about it.
No, hold on. I think with the much younger players, United aren't doing too bad. If you look at Garnacho and you certainly look at Manu and what have you, some of the younger players in and around the United squad, something somewhere is working quite well at Manchester United on that academy or that young. It's not that player that United have got wrong. It's signing Anthony for 80 million. It's signing. Yeah, that's what they've got wrong, and I'm not really sure
for years
that Dan Ashworth is the person that's going to do that for Manchester United. I can't tell you who I think is. I just think that, like I say, it's almost somebody somewhere has pointed at that. Oh, that Dan Ashworth was great at Brighton, and he went to Newcastle, and he's talked on very highly at England level. Let's go for him. But what has he done at Newcastle that would persuade Manchester United that he is currently the best out there to do that job?
I think he's part of a team. I think he's good he works as a team. He works with a team at Brighton. He works in a team at Newcastle. And I think Man United are building something special behind the scenes. I really do. I think
is he actually coming though? Sorry, just quickly, everyone, because I read that he can't come unless we pay a hefty fee or 2 years garden.
They'll pay 10 million, won't they? He's on garden.
He's only 10 mil. He's only 10 mil. Fair enough.
But isn't Omar Baradi sporting director? Is he? I thought he was sporting director.
No, he's the CEO. He's going to be the CEO.
Yeah, but he's going to have a big say. He's going to be controlling everything. And do you know what I mean? And these are big names. These are big names. I mean, I'm sure you've got good things to say about him. I know you're picking.
They've still got to get the right players though at the end of the day, which is what I think Kevin's point is. What I think.
Don't we all, mate? Don't we all?
Yeah. And Man United have failed miserably for the last decade in identifying talent and bringing it in. And that is my point about this Dan fella getting Tonoli in. If he hasn't been able to identify that this player has got issues surrounding him, just like we didn't do with Anthony, just like we didn't do with X, that worries me. That really worries me. Because the best at their job would have known that that's coming down the pipeline.
I also think there's a problem with Man United's application when they're going for these players as well, because as we've heard recently, Solskjaer looked at Anthony, £26 million player. They went back again a few months later, £40 million. They said no. They went back when it was desperate times, and then they had to pay what they had to pay. There's something fundamentally wrong with the process of your purchasing players that needs to be fixed, and maybe a Dan Ashworth and the structure they're going to bring in is going to make a difference.
Yeah, that's why. Hopefully, definitely.
Last one before we go. Kev, we saw some recent comments from Gary Neville saying that not necessarily that Manchester City were boring, but he said that they were a hard team to watch. Do you think that was a bit harsh?
A bit boring, isn't they?
It's boring winning all these trophies all the time. Yeah, I mean
you win a treble. Don't even get me involved in
this.
Bit
boring, it's a little bit boring.
I mean, it does feel better to win a treble with style instead of just pounding boring football. I will say that much at least. You know what I mean? Well, reflect you on the pitch.
It was certainly better winning the treble, beating your rivals in the FA Cup final as part of it. That is
mate, you weren't even a rival when we won the treble, mate. You were down League 2 or wherever it was.
Shows how times have changed. You beat Newcastle, I think, to win the treble in the FA Cup final, didn't you?
Newcastle. But I believe our Champions League run was one of the hardest of all time. Inter Milan, Juventus, Barcelona, Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
Some teams are just better, and they're just better at doing these things than other teams.
They just look better, don't they? Just look better.
We played Inter Milan in the final. We played Real Madrid in the semi-final. We played Bayern Munich in the quarter-final. I don't think that.
Everyone always forgets everyone else's run when we're talking about comparisons.
You do hear fans of other clubs saying that City are boring, but that's because I think one of the reasons of that is we just have so much possession of the ball, and people. I don't agree with Gary Neville, but I sort of understand the point he was trying to make. I think the point he was trying to make was City are going to play Copenhagen away. Gary Neville knows that it's a game that City are going to win. So it doesn't mean the performance is going to be boring. I think what he meant was this is going to be another boring situation because City are going to go to Copenhagen and win. So
exciting.
As a neutral, why would he watch that? I think that's the point. Yeah. That's the point he's making. It's not boring.
Copenhagen, mate. Tough team, Copenhagen. Team, mate.
You missed my there, Kev. I was waiting for you.
It's not like you, Kev. It's not like you missed that one.
Too many people speaking. What do you say? Sorry.
I was waiting for you to come out with that one, mate. You missed that. I thought you was going to.
Yeah, it's not like you.
Oh, about United getting beat by Copenhagen. So
it's no fun punching down. It's only fun punching up. You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah. I mean, on the serious side, I mean, it's probably boring if you're just seeing them win all the time. If anything, I mean, they got a little bit stick the weekend against Chelsea, and a lot of people saying Chelsea played well. You know, they did this, they did that. I mean, let's get it right. If Ireland had been shooting boots on, they would have come away winning 6-1. So you do
triple captain, the bastard. A triple captain.
It's a double game week, isn't it?
My mate was screaming about it. Triple captain
furious.
As well.
Absolutely
furious. Captain double game week.
Yeah. Apparently, there was a lot of that, wasn't it, the weekend? That so many people had him as a triple captain or something, and he just
highest ever in history. Apparently, the highest ever captain in history.
You've probably done it on purpose.
Man City boring. I don't find Man City boring at all, to be fair.
But I sort of got the point that Gary Neville was making, and Pep got a little bit. I think Pep's done that a few times recently, hasn't he? Had to go at the pundits about them. Listen, we all like to have a go at the pundits because, apart from us, of course, we all like to have a go at the pundits because generally they talk a load of shite, don't they?
Yeah, I tell you what, we're just on Pep, mate. I watched a press conference the other week. Is he always like that in presses? Oh my God, he's like those poor journalists. They could say to him, "Hello, Pip, how's you going? Happy birthday, mate." And he'll go, "What? What'd you say? What do you mean by that? I don't know what you mean by that." You know, and it's like, I was like, "Whoa."
Maybe for another time, but an Arsenal fan talking about spiky press conferences when you've got Arteta there, that's a whole programme on its own, isn't it? But I think
you're saying scared. You keep mentioning Arsenal again, Kev. I'm going to give you the AA number. I'll give you the other week.
Before this goes on till 10 o'clock.
Bring it on, Steve.
That is all we have time for. Very good show. Very good. Thank you for tonight. Thank you, Garth. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Farrell and Kevin.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Been great as always.
Yeah,
finest. Make sure you join us every Monday for the Super Six podcast. Make sure you join us tomorrow for the Arsenal show and Wednesday for the Champions League post-match reaction against Porto.
You won't have to worry about that, will you, Garth, Farrell? Just mention it.
Don't involve me in this one. I'm staying away.
Is this the no European Cups at all Arsenal fan talking to me about Europe? Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
Because we can put our trophies on the table, mate, if you want. We can put our trophies on the table. It's six down there. It's one down there, and it's three up here, mate.
I've had this conversation.
I've got to get him where I can, mate.
The UEFA Fairs Cup, and the Cup Winners' Cup, yeah. Tell Alan Smith that he's never won a European trophy. Tell Alan Smith he's never won a European trophy. All right?
Yeah.
Palmer. They're all involved in that competition.
Giant European football, Palmer.
That's all I remember is Naeem absolutely belittling David Seaman. That's the only European memory I've got.
It's not even around anymore.
I was there. I was there that game. I was at that game when he done that.
Really?
It's typical, weren't it? The only European final I've ever been to, and he did that.
Naeem from the halfway line. All right. That's all we have time for. Peace out, people. Stay safe and wash your hands.
Thank you.